So today it's a head-to-head competition between California versus Utah. It's important to note that opinions about moving from California to Utah can vary greatly among individuals, and not everyone will share the same sentiments. However, here are the top 10 most important criteria to rank Utah versus California. And if we have not met yet, my name is Scott Steele, and I love helping people discover all things about Utah, including Utah real estate. I am a local real estate agent here in Utah. I live just outside of downtown Salt Lake City, and I would love to be your real estate resource of choice if you are considering making a move. You can find my contact information down below, and I am the one that answers those texts, those emails, and those phone calls. So if you're interested in having a conversation, hit me up. And with that said, let's get started with this video that includes the rankings of California versus Utah. Okay, number one is cultural differences, and I like to call this vibes. And I think it's safe to say that California and Utah have very distinct cultural differences and different landscapes. Californians who move here are probably going to be very concerned about adapting to a new cultural environment. And for many people that move here from out of state, particularly from California, it can be a little bit of a culture shock. The family dynamics, the cultural and the community dynamics, the social norms, the traditions, and the lifestyle can be very different from what you've experienced in California. And when you come to Utah, depending on the area that you're in, you'll notice a pretty drastic change. Now, for the most part in downtown Salt Lake City, you'll find that it's just pretty similar to most bigger cities in the country. Although Salt Lake City is not really a big city, it is growing up. But these cultural differences that I'm talking about mostly take place out in the suburbs or in the more rural or smaller towns. So I found this article on BuzzFeed, and it was a ranking of all 50 US states just based on the vibes. And I thought that this was the best article to look at to get these rankings. You'll notice Utah comes in with a ranking of number 15 out of 50 states in the country. But California comes in at number 2. There's only one state that ranked higher, and that was Hawaii. But California, obviously for so many reasons, has such a diverse landscape in terms of social and cultural norms. It is such a different place than Utah, and it's worth noting here. So when it comes to cultural vibes, it looks like California takes the win here. Okay, the second category that I've set aside is the weather differences. For many people that move here from California, they're experiencing a pretty drastic change in terms of weather. And when it comes to rankings in terms of weather across the country and all 50 states, California's got it pretty good. And it's safe to say that it's no surprise that Utah is not number 1 on the list in terms of rankings across all 50 states. In fact, Utah came in at number 16. I would say that that's a really good ranking for Utah simply because our winters here aren't that bad. It's much better here than in the upper Midwest or in many other states where it gets so much colder with more humidity. But in Utah, we have a much drier and more moderate winter, and it also comes into play where we have very few weather emergencies or major weather events that really impact our lives. Now, as for California, they came in ranked number 1 in the country, and that's no surprise. Here in Utah, I always talk about people who have moved here from California, how blessed they were to have the very best weather in the entire country. My wife, Lindsay, and her entire family are from Southern California, and what better place in this country to experience the best weather than Southern California? So in terms of weather differences, California takes another win. Okay, this next category was a little bit weird and different for me to try to find a ranking, and I had to do this one quite a bit differently, but really it boils down to one of the major concerns that people have when they're making the move from California to Utah, and that is the religious influence here in Utah. I think it's safe to say that most people know that Utah is a very religious state, particularly to the LDS faith, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, aka the Mormons. And so for this ranking, I'm ranking what percentage of the population as well as the total number of the population are of the predominant faith here in Utah, which is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And on this one, California comes in well below 1% of its total population. In fact, it's just about 750,000 people that live in California that consider themselves of the faith of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. On the flip side, here in Utah, it is the number 1 state in the country in terms of the highest Mormon population, accounting for 64% of the total population identifying as a member of the faith, which totals just over 2.2 million Utah residents. And on this one, I don't want to say who wins or who loses. It's just a distinct difference between the two states, and I fully understand this is kind of a weird way to rank the states, but it's worth noting because people want to know. Utah has the most members of the faith, and California comes in actually number 2 in terms of the total number of members of the faith. Okay, next up, number 4 on the list is outdoor activities, and this is one of the 2 most identified reasons as to why people choose to make the move to Utah. While Utah offers plenty of outdoor recreational opportunities like skiing and hiking and mountain biking, some Californians might miss the coastal lifestyle and the specific activities associated with it, such as surfing and beach-related sports. I think it's really safe to say that most people have a difficult time comparing the beach versus the mountains. Some people prefer the mountains, some people prefer the beach, but I found this ranking on the website TripSavvy, and you'll notice that the number 2 ranked state in the country is California, and of course, California is one of the most beautiful states in this country. There's so much to do there. It's such a huge state that there's so many different things to do. But coming in the number 1 ranking was, of course, Utah. And for those that want to live an outdoorsy lifestyle, Utah is the mecca, in my opinion. From the mighty 5 national parks down in southern Utah to the ski resorts and the world-class snow sports up here in the northern part, Utah is an incredibly blessed place to live, and anyone that experiences the outdoors here is lucky to have experienced it. So in terms of this ranking, Utah nudges out the win against the number 2 ranked state in California. Okay, number 5 on the list, this one's going to be difficult for me to rank, so I won't actually rank it, but I do want to point out the differences. This one is beyond obvious, and this is political differences. The precincts or the zip codes where more people vote blue versus red really play into the demographics of the inner city, and the closer you get to the center of downtown Salt Lake City, the more blue it becomes, and the further outside of that, it gets more red. And ultimately, California and Utah often have different political landscapes. Those moving from California may find themselves in a state with different political values, which can certainly impact policies and community attitudes. It can be an adjustment if you're coming from California, and regardless of which direction you lean on the political spectrum, I think it's really wise to know. And in terms of this ranking, there is no ranking. It's just blue for California and red for Utah. Number 6 on the list is diversity. While California is known for its cultural and ethnic diversity, individuals moving from California may feel that Utah lacks the same level of diversity, potentially affecting their comfort in terms of multicultural experiences and exposure. Utah used to be one of the worst in terms of diversity and cultural diversity, and it's improved dramatically over the last handful of years or the last decade. But here's where the rankings came in. Utah came in ranked number 28 in the country, while California, of course, came in ranked number 1. Okay, next up is nightlife and entertainment. Now, before you think about anything, of course, California has so many more opportunities for both nightlife as well as sporting and other entertainment events, especially in cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco. It's known for its vibrant nightlife and entertainment scene. Those moving to Utah might find the entertainment options comparatively limited, particularly if they're accustomed to a bustling urban lifestyle in California. The bottom line here, of course, California takes the win. Utah comes in ranked at number 46 in the country. I think that's no surprise to most people. We don't really place an emphasis on nightlife and entertainment as much here as we do elsewhere. We find enjoyment in other things. And California came in ranked number 4 in the country for another win in the rankings. Okay, number 8 on the list is cost of living. While Utah's cost of living is generally much lower than in many parts of California, the cost of living can vary within the state itself. Some Californians might worry about potential financial adjustments, especially if they're moving to an area with a higher cost of living. Now, the cost of living in Utah has risen substantially over the last handful of years, especially since the pandemic in 2020, and it's certainly not as affordable as it once was, but let's see where it comes in with the rankings. And to start, California comes in ranked number 49 in the country in terms of cost of living. That's no surprise. California is one of the absolute most expensive places to live. And Utah, on the other hand, comes in ranked dead center in the middle of the pack at number 25 in the country, ranked for cost of living. So to recap, Utah comes in ranked number 25, while California is ranked number 49, and that gives Utah the win. Number 9 is job opportunities, and this is one of the 2 most important reasons why people end up making a move to Utah, and job opportunities are just a massive part as to why people choose to live here alongside the outdoors. Job markets differ across states, and those moving from California might be concerned about finding suitable employment opportunities in Utah depending on their industry and skill set. Utah's job scene is improving. Let's see how it ranks and see how this plays out when comparing California versus Utah. Here you can see that California comes in ranked number 38 in the country for employment, while of course Utah comes in ranked number 1 in terms of employment, which gives the Beehive State a massive win in this area, so it can be a great place to come if you're looking for a quality job. Okay, next up on the list is the educational system. Families with school-aged children may consider the quality of the education system when moving to a different state, especially if you're moving from California to Utah. Perceptions about the education system in Utah compared to California may influence your decision to move, especially if there are concerns about that transition for your children. So let's see how these two states rank. So here you can see California comes in ranked number 20 in terms of education, but if you look to the right, you can see they're ranked number 38 for pre-K through 12. It's their higher education ranking that bumps them up to number 20. And comparatively, Utah is ranked number 5 in the country in terms of education, number 9 for pre-K through 12, and number 6 for higher education, and this gives another ranking win to Utah. So after taking a look at all of these rankings, I listed 10 things, but I'm going to remove the religious influence as well as the politics from this equation, and it comes down to a dead tie between the two states in terms of how many categories they won. Utah won 4 and California won 4. If we go back to the US News and World Report rankings, we can see right here that Utah is ranked number 1 in best states overall. This takes everything into account, from crime to education to healthcare to the natural environment to the economy, fiscal stability, infrastructure, and opportunities. Comparatively, California comes in ranked number 33 as best states overall in the country. And I think Utah, even though we're a much smaller and less populated state, we can certainly throw some punches as though we're a much larger state than we really are. I love living here. I hope that anyone that comes here feels welcome, as does my wife and her family. They love living here in Utah. I know that some people might have some negative experiences, but for the most part, this is just a wonderful place to live. I absolutely love it. If you're considering making a move to Utah, or perhaps you've already made a move and you're looking for somebody to be a connection for you and a real estate resource, I would love to be that for you. Please reach out to me, give me a call, shoot me a text, or drop me an email. I would love to get in touch and see what I can do to help you. Also, leave a comment below if you've visited here in Utah and what your favorite thing or place was. And until the next video, thanks guys.